Yo, what's going on you guys? This is RBG hitting you with another Transformers video. It seems like just yesterday that you guys almost made me pull what little hair I have left out of my head because of how displeased you were with my 2017 top strongest Transformers list. So I've taken it upon myself to give you a 2021 version. Now before we get into the gist of this video, I want to remind you of today's sponsor, Mech Arena. I mean, if we're going to make a list talking about the most powerful robots, then it's only right that we discuss super-powered mechs, right? Anyways, Mech Arena is a killer new 5v5 mech shooter with tons of unique mechs, weapons, and skins, and a variety of different maps and game modes. It features fast-paced competitive gameplay that you can play solo or team up with your friends to take on the world. Some of my favorite things to do is pimp out my mech with rare weapons such as the autocannon and mix it up with some of my homies in the custom battles. And if I don't like the default colors for said robots, I can pop open a fortune vault to change the mech skins. Like, I feel like I'm playing with purpose when I take my mech on the battlefield, and in fact I actually am. Because from now until December the 15th, Mech Arena is raising $100,000 to charity by destroying 1 billion mechs in-game for their Mechs Are Here event. And 10 lucky players will take part in the grand finale, the Mech Arena Championship, on December 16th for a chance to pilot a real-life mech. In order to get the big prize like this and the other things like the merch box, you'll need to register for the event. It's super easy. Once you're in game, just hit the Mechs Are Here button in your hangar and sign up. Like, who would pass on jumping in some mech mayhem, man? So jump in it now. You can do so by installing the game via my link or scanning this QR code. It's completely free on Android and iOS, and if you use my link, you'll get 50,000 credits, 3 gold crates, and just for participating, you'll get an exclusive Mechs Are Here event skin. If you're quick enough, you can add me as one of your friends and we can play together. So I'll see you on the battlefield. But yeah, you all know how the rules go. I'll be ranking these metallic individuals based on their abilities and above all else their kill count. Just want to remind you all that this video is based on the live action movies, so don't ask me about any of the characters from the cartoons or comics. If they weren't in the movies, I don't care. And I could care less about the characters who are highly revered and just so happen to be in the Bay films. If they did absolutely nothing, then they ultimately mean nothing to me. Looking at you, Unicron. But without further ado, let's jump into this list and see who's hot and who's not. Coming in at number 20, we have Barricade. You may remember in my original video, he made it a spot above the weakest bot, but this time around he's coming in dead last. Although this character has a pretty solid attendance record, only missing out on 2 films in the Bayverse, he always manages to show how much of a ham and egger he is compared to the other robots, which is unfortunate because he made a strong impression when he first jumped on the scene to interrogate Sam about his eBay page.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Are you username ladiesman217?
But it all went downhill from there. After chasing down Bumblebee and Sam to a deserted chemical plant, he ultimately lost a fight, but he was able to survive and join the Battle of Mission City, which he presumably fled the battle after Megatron was destroyed, only to return again after unknown circumstances and get beamed in the eye by a soldier in TF3. By the time TF5 rolled around, he was seen sporting a fresh new look, but none of the upgrades did him any good. Midway into the film, he gets slammed by Grimlock's tail and crashes into a wall. And during a high-speed chase scene, he gets blasted by Bumblebee and hits 2 cars and crashes into a wall again. I'm not sure if it's metaphoric, but it seems like his overall character arc was just crashed into a wall.
Oh, that hurt.
Trailblazing his way into the 19th spot is Jazz. One of the most criminally underrated and overlooked Autobots in the live-action movies, Jazz is probably the most accurate adaptation of the character that perfectly translates his original G1 counterpart. Despite his classic vehicle form being swapped out for a silver Pontiac Solstice, his core essence was captured perfectly. He has his signature visor, which is now retractable, just like Optimus Prime's mouthplate, and he even features the wheels at the back of his feet. As soon as he's introduced, we get a taste of his chill but no-nonsense attitude. He features a blaster called the Crescent Moon Cannon, which sports a shield to deflect incoming fire. And to counter any attacks made from a weapon made of metal, he has a magnetic claw which he uses on the Sector 7 agents. The little guy is very agile, like the way he swiftly maneuvers around with so much swag is dope. Not to mention he can quickly adjust to situations and exploit his enemies' weak points, as he does when he fights with Brawl. Unfortunately, his smooth moves couldn't help him escape the chilling claws of Megatron. The Decepticon leader tossed him through the air onto a nearby building, landing on him with the crushing grip of his talons. Jazz valiantly fought on, asking Megatron if he wanted a piece. In return, Megatron took that remark literally and began ripping him into 2. Coming to the rescue at number 18, we have Ratchet. So our favorite Autobot medic avoided last place this time around. Originally a member of the Cybertron Science Division, Ratchet was always good at destroying vocal processors as he was at repairing them, which is why he ultimately opted to take his talents to the battlefield when the Great War popped off. Now, as a kid, I was never interested in the character or his lame color scheme, but by the time the live action film rolled around, he became one of my faves. There's just something about his modern design that just works. Every time I saw him standing alongside the other Autobot members, his yellow and red color scheme made him stand out. And he looked even cooler once he got his paint job updated in Dark of the Moon. To perform his destructive surgeries, he comes with a wide array of weapons, such as the healing laser, the beam fusing energon guns which can be transformed into a machine gun or an energy cannon, and if he wants to do a little dissecting, he has the saw. For his vehicle mode, he transforms into a decked out 2007 Hummer H2. A part of Ratchet's transformation involves his upper body rotating around, which could be seen during the Autobot's introduction and when he was electrocuted by a power line. After 3 movies in 7 years, Ratchet only got a close-up transformation sequence in Age of Extinction, which was sadly his last transformation. Stopping the time at number 17, we have Hot Rod.
At what?
Hot Rod.
As red?
Hot Rod.
Some of you guys may remember that I left him off my original list because I felt like he really didn't do much in Transformers The Last Night to warrant a spot on it. But after giving it some thought, I figured it'd only be right that I included him at the number 17 spot. Now, admittedly, this guy represents everything I hate about the Bayformers, which is a robot that's been name-slapped with a title that doesn't do the original incarnation any justice. There's nothing about this version of Hot Rod that mirrors his G1 counterpart. For whatever reason, the producers thought it would be a genius idea to give him a French accent that he can't get rid of. I'd say the only redeeming factor to Michael Bay's version would have to be his time bubble gun, which is probably one of the most overpowered cheat codes out of all the weapons. Like, this thing got the Autobots out of so many sticky situations. When the TRF and MI6 tracked him down and stormed Edmund Burton's castle, he used his time bubble gun to slow them down, allowing his friends to escape. He also used it to freeze Megatron, saving Hound's life. As Quintessa's control center fell to Earth, he managed to save Vivian and Cade from falling to their deaths by freezing them with his gun, buying them just enough time to be grabbed and flown to safety by Optimus. Like, seeing a weapon like this kinda makes you wonder, where was this guy during the earlier events? If he was around, we wouldn't have to witness so many Autobot casualties. Thanks a lot, Hot Rod. Latching on to the 16th spot, we have Dino, aka Mirage. I don't know why I didn't add him to the original list, but I'm damn sure not gonna leave him out this time around.
And stay there.
Anyways, this guy possesses a wide range of infiltration skills. He features blades and grappling hooks. If you want to include the Dark of the Moon video game, he has an assault and sniper rifle and his signature invisibility technique, which for whatever reason didn't make the final cut of the movie. He has arguably one of the best action scenes in the live action movies, including the Bumblebee film. During an escort mission, him and the Autobots were attacked by the Dreads, who had to come take Sentinel Prime. He dug his blades into Hatchet and steered him into the firing lane of the other Autobots before hurling him into incoming traffic to finish him off. I'm kinda bummed that we didn't get a chance to see this version of the character in Age of Extinction in The Last Night. It's unclear whether he survived attacks by Cemetery Wind before the events of Age of Extinction, but his voice actor died of a heart attack a week after Dark of the Moon's release. Top of that onto the fact that the CEO of Ferrari pretty much forced the producers to change his name to Dino in order to use their vehicle is most likely why he didn't make a return. Thankfully, the producers are taking it back to the basics and bringing him back in Transformers Rise of the Beast. Putting a bullseye on the 15th spot, we have Crosshairs. This robot features my favorite design out of all the robots on this list. My man just has a unique look that makes him look like this badass paratrooper who's packing major heat. Unlike the other Autobots who show blind allegiance to their team, Crosshairs is a self-loving bot who only indulges in activities that interest him, so he occasionally has to be dragged by his collar. But when he does enter into the fray, he pulls off things you could expect him to do with his blasters. As the sharpest shot on the battlefield, his peers know he'll always hit his target, even if it's done using his twin turbo guns. And he can pilot pretty much any Cybertronian aircraft. You just know he's gonna hit you with one of those wallpaper-worthy snapshots anytime he does something. Coming in at number 14 is Shatter. I was a bit apprehensive about including her on this list, but I felt like I had to, because she's one of the most effective Decepticon hunters we've seen. For one, she's a triple changer who can kill you on land or in air, and she's a smooth talking manipulator who enjoys twisting the knife once she's found the quarry. To avoid breaking the nails, she lets Dropkick do most of the dirty work, and she often is shown to be headstrong enough to overlook minute details, which results in her shooting first and asking questions later. As I mentioned earlier, she typically allows Dropkick to handle most of the conflicts. However, when it comes time for her to actually fight, she proves herself to be a far more formidable combatant than her partner, and she consistently maintains the upper hand in her fights like she does with Bumblebee, which ultimately forced him to form a suicide tactic just to kill her. Slashing at number 13 is Sideswipe. I hate bringing this guy up because anytime I mention that I don't know how he died, people confuse him with Jazz and say, oh, he was killed by Megatron. Like, bruh, did any of you guys really watch these films? But I digress. This dude is a big fan favorite in the Transformers community. Not only do the Bay fans dig him, but the G1 fans took a huge liking to him. There's just something about the Autobot speedster that we couldn't get enough of. So much to the point to where the producers decided to bring him back out of all the other secondary Transformers who were introduced in Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. Instead of featuring the typical Autobot aesthetics such as having 2 normal feet, he has wheels that allow him to dart into situations head on. They also allow him to utilize his retractable arm swords with swift precision. He's just an all-around bot that gets the job done.
Damn, I'm good.
Keeping his samurai code of honor in the 12th spot is Drift. Probably one of the most stereotypical robots we've seen since Skids and Mudflap, Drift is an interesting case, but in a good way though, because he's a former Decepticon turned Autobot who occasionally shows his murderous side when he struggles to maintain his inner peace. Like, you never know when this dude is gonna flip out on his own comrades.
No longer. Get off, you maggot! I will kill you, flying rats!
Funny enough, he's the first and only Autobot triple changer in all of the movies, including the Bumblebee film. His alt mode appears to be that of a 2013 Bugatti Veyron and a Skorsky S97 Raider helicopter. And TF5, his alt mode is a 2017 Mercedes AMG GTR. So he's an expert driver and an expert pilot. He's also a formidable hand-to-hand combatant. When he isn't turning his blades on characters like Bumblebee, he's slicing Decepticons and KSI drones to ribbons, resulting in some of the coolest swordplay scenes.
I got the leg! And his fat head. Don't get any better than that.
Number 11, Jetfire. No, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I thought about excluding this dude from the list this time around, but he's played an integral part in the way this continuity was shaped, so I had to include him. In the movie tie-in comics, he was directly linked to the Fallen, serving as one of his seekers, but eventually he affected to the Autobot side after realizing the scale of the death and destruction the Fallen would bring. The guy was a living legend both in the air and on the battlefield in this day. Sadly, his day has long since passed. His body went south years back. But thanks in part to the little Energon kickstart he got from the Cube Sliver, he was able to kick off the battle rust and settle the score with his former master. Unlike the newer bots who are a lot smaller than Jetfire, he is relatively fast. Before his untimely death, he was the only Autobot able to activate a space bridge to teleport across great distances. I can honestly say if he was younger, he would be at the top of the list. During the Big Battle of Egypt, he performed the most noble deed by sacrificing himself to give Optimus Prime his jet power, resulting in one of the coolest fights.
Let's roll.
Cowardly sneaking his way into number 10 is Starscream. Now, I have a love-hate relationship with this character, which can come off a bit contradicting. On one hand, I love the fact that they made him this super imposing badass in the first movie compared to his original incarnation, but I hate how cowardly and comical he was in the later installments.
Sometimes cowards do survive.
Like, I know it's a more faithful portrayal to the character, but it got pretty stale. When he first appeared in the 2007 film, he put me in the mind of his Armada version, which is a fearless bot who didn't mind jumping into the chaos. During the assault on a nearby city, he fooled Captain Linus's unit by posing as an F-22 Raptor providing cover. He then launched an attack that crippled Bumblebee as Ironhide realized too late who the fighter really was. The Energon-fueled Nacho just had a ferocity about him that I loved, but all of that toughness came to a screeching halt by the time Revenge of the Fallen rolled around. Even though he had a huge advantage with his Decepticon bros backing him up against Optimus Prime in the big forest battle, he still got his triangle-shaped ass handed to him. And during Dark of the Moon, the writers would add even more insult to an already painful injury when they allowed a mere human such as Sam to score a kill on him by blowing his head clean off his shoulders. Eating up that 9th spot is Hound. I hope you guys are happy with this inclusion, because I never would have heard the end of it if I left him out like I did in the original video. As you can tell, I never really liked this character. I left him off the list the first time around out of spite because I felt like the producers tried to replace Ironhide with him. Not to mention he made his debut in my least favorite Transformers movie, Age of Extinction. But I gotta admit that he's deserving of being on the top 10. The dude is literally a walking armory. His arsenal includes a triple-barreled minigun, an assault rifle, 2 4-barreled shotguns, 4 pistols, a knife, bicep mounted missiles and multiple grenades, and that little cigar he smokes, oh yeah, he can use that as a weapon too as a last resort. He transforms into an Oshkosh Defense medium tactical vehicle. As displayed in Age of Extinction, he's very durable and can take on a lot of punishment, which enables him to keep racking up kills even when he's on his back foot. His overall personality and mouthiness can be a bit much at times, and I still believe the title of Hound should have been given to another robot. If anything, this is the live action version of Bulkhead, which is further proven by these early concepts. But this is what we got. We're gonna have to accept our fat ballerina and all his destructive nature.
Sorry I'm late. My invitation to this ass kicking must have got lost in the mail.
Eyeballing the number 8 spot is Shockwave. What's understood ain't even gotta be explained about this entry. The dude is a heavy hitter in the Decepticon roster, and he's a solid modern update from his G1 counterpart, at least in my opinion. I know the purists are going to argue that he's not, since all he does is growl instead of speak, but I think it still falls in line to what he originally was, which is a cold and unreadable Cybertronian who you can't always tell where his motives lie. Apparently, he's been working to oust Megatron since before Starscream got the idea. Above all else, he's a scientist coming up with twisted and soulless experimental Decepticons, and he controls the nastiest Cybertronian beast, the Driller. This destructive creature terrorized Cybertron until Shockwave built a bond with it and used it as a personal chauffeur. They both took part in capturing Chicago and sealed off the city from outside interference. And till this day, they caused the most collateral damage, destroying buildings such as the Hudson Tower. But thankfully, Shockwave's reign of destruction was cut short when Optimus Prime went on an ultimate killing spree, ending his combo off by ripping out Shockwave's eye and throat. Making good use of his cannons at number 7, we have Ironhide. This guy is the epitome of a ride or die robot. Anytime Optimus needed to make a decision or was too salty to do so, Ironhide was right there to reel him in and get his head back in the game. And mind you, these two both had beef during the earlier days of Cybertron, back when Ironhide was riding with his tribe. But after refueling the planet with the cube, they became instant buds. This cannon-toting Autobot would become the ultimate promoter, passing out tickets to his gun show. As a matter of fact, it's possible that Ironhide's cannons are in fact multiple weapons in one shell. In other words, he might be able to reconfigure his cannons to fire various types of rounds, given how the guns seem to always constantly be transforming, as if he can't decide which round to fire. Not only can they be used to destroy enemies, they can also be used to create shockwaves, as you can see when he pounds the ground to immobilize incoming Sector 7 agents' vehicles. And they have enough power to propel him upward if he gets flipped upside down. But unfortunately, he loses them at the tail end of Revenge of the Fallen. When we see him in Dark of the Moon, he's sporting some powerful artillery courtesy of Q. He uses one of the upgrades on the Dredge during a Mexican standoff. He also showed that he doesn't necessarily need a weapon to do the job, since he is a weapon. The guy is quite sturdy, which is shown when he rams the Dredge head on. Not only did he emerge from the collision completely unscathed, the Dredge lost their balance and needed to recover for a short time from the crash. Number 6. Grimlock. You guys asked for him and you got him for this list. Just want to briefly mention that he'll be representing his entire Dinobot coalition to avoid making this list too long. So we're gonna focus on the king himself. Considered one of the most powerful warriors in the universe, he likes nothing more than showing off his strength, leaving his enemies stomped, chomped, or turned to ash by his blast of fire breath. Whether in his robot or beast mode, his ferocity doesn't waver, as seen when he tries to test Optimus Prime's might to decide if he'll join the Autobots. While this approach proves to be very effective, it does have its limitations. Having an animalistic nature such as Grimlock means you don't always make the right decisions, which is why he was captured by Lockdown and ultimately bested by Optimus. But when he's given the right guidance, he can turn the tide of battle, as seen when he joins the Autobots and makes quick work of the KSI drones. Capping off the number 5 spot is the Decepticon High Lord himself, Megatron. I've been relatively harsh on this character over the years, because no matter how consistent his attendance is in the movies, his presence as a leader continues to diminish with each installment. Even though he swears up and down that even in death there's no command in his, he proves otherwise by doing another big baddie's bidding, as seen when he bows to the Fallen, as seen when he breaks his Decepticon code and works for an Autobot a la Sentinel Prime, as seen when he simps out to Quintessa. The dude just doesn't evoke leadership qualities as he did in the first film, but that doesn't stop him from being a powerful threat to be reckoned with. After breaking the ice in the 2007 film, he was the first to kill off an Autobot, and since he had a significant handicap advantage, he was the first to kill a Prime in Revenge of the Fallen. What's crazy is that his signature fusion cannon is very powerful and is responsible for killing some of the biggest heavy hitters in the Bayformers films. Besides Optimus falling victim to it, Sentinel Prime was killed by it as well, even though Optimus was behind the trigger.
No, Optimus!
Unfortunately, with all those things out of the way, Meggs was just pushed aside, only making appearances here and there when he was ordered to. It really sucks that he played second fiddle to all these other characters. Here's hoping they do him justice when he comes back in a future film. Number 4. Sentinel Prime. Also codenamed Backstabbenal Prime for obvious reasons. But anyways, Sentinel Prime is a very patriotic individual, believing that all Cybertronians are gods. I mean, why wouldn't he? He's an original member of the dynasty of Primes, and he taught Optimus Prime everything he knew. But what he didn't teach Optimus was how to be a backstabber.
I hereby discharge you from duty.
Now, to be fair, he turned on his former pupil to restore Cybertron, but the way he went about doing it was a bit underhanded. Like, he ain't had to kill our boy Ironhide like that. Anyways, Sentinel was famous for being a proud and feared warrior on the battlefield of Cybertron, using his double-bladed Primax sword and a shield-changeable cosmic rust gun with great skillfulness. Having both of these deadly weapons at his disposal helped him easily defend himself against all the Autobots who tried to jump him. And had he not been sabotaged by Megatron, he could have succeeded in his plans of restoring Cybertron. I guess that's what you get for shooting your fellow Autobots in the back. Karma is a mother. Hunting down the third spot is Lockdown. Now, this character has become the bane of my existence relating to other lists I've made, such as the top 10 most brutal Decepticon deaths list. Every time I get a notification from that specific video, it's somebody asking why I didn't include Lockdown. It's like they easily forget that he doesn't belong to either faction. He's simply a mercenary for hire who will take down a Decepticon or an Autobot if he has to. What's funny is that he despises both of them and even vents about cleaning up their mess anytime the two factions have a big battle. Since he has no allegiance to a team, he doesn't have to worry about anyone getting in his way, and he doesn't have to fight with honor. Having these traits have helped him secure some of the biggest bounties in the galaxy, which include the Dinobots and Optimus Prime temporarily. He was very efficient with all his tactics, and if the Autobots didn't sabotage his ship, he could have made off with the ultimate prize, but he was stopped and cut in two by Optimus. Numero 2. Optimus Prime. It was a tough call, but after giving it a little thought, I had to drop my boy Robo Jesus from the top spot. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's very much deserving of it. He's killed a lot of Decepticons and saved the day on numerous occasions, but there's just something about his unstable emotions that hold him back.
I will kill you.
When he's trying to do the right thing and give villains like Megatron the benefit of the doubt, he easily gets exploited. And when his rage consumes him, it makes him sloppy in combat. If he had a balance of both of these qualities, he would be super effective. But it's more than enough to rack up kills. And if you've seen the movies, then you know our boy Robo Jesus has a ton of them. Ranging from melee attacks to brutal stabbings. He has an expansive assortment of weapons and abilities that make him a walking Swiss Army knife. And even though he met the chilling hand of death in Revenge of the Fallen, he no longer had to worry about being ridden off anymore, because as long as he possesses the matrix of leadership, he's pretty much invincible. So he's free to go on about his massive Decepticon killing spree. Number 1. Bumblebee. Well, this is a bit of a surprise, right? I know B haters are going to be punching the air when they see this, but regardless, it was only right that I put my boy in the top spot. For a small Autobot scout, he's been through a lot on Earth compared to the other members. He's seen his planet die. He's had his voice box ripped out. And if you want to count the contradiction of him being on Earth during World War II, he somehow lost his memory. But he manages to overcome it all. The guy's a bottomless well of luck. As soon as it looks like he's gonna be off, he barely escapes. It's like miracles are bound to happen when the beaster is about to die. But regardless of it all, he's been in a slew of battles and faced off against big hitters, including his boss Optimus. I'd even go so far as to say he's racked up the most kills in these movies, and he's become the face of the Transformers brand, so he isn't going anywhere anytime soon. That's why he's been added to the top of the leaderboard. So there you have it, folks. This is going to be the end of the top 20 most powerful Transformers list. I hope you guys enjoyed this video because it took a great deal of time to make. If your favorite Transformer didn't make it on the list or get placed in a spot you thought they should, then let me know where you would have put them. In the meantime, I'm going to ask that you like or dislike the video. And if you really enjoyed it, I'd appreciate it if you shared it with all your friends and followers on different social media outlets. Sharing is caring. If you made it to this point of the video, follow your comment up with hashtag #OneShallStand. But once again, this is your boy RBG signing out on another video. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.